I did a video a while ago titled Trying to Beat 31 Horror Games in a Month, Week 1, with the intention of doing a roundup of all the games each Sunday, but I was so busy actually streaming the challenge that I ended up finishing the event without doing any of those videos. So this video is dedicated to giving a quick breakdown of what I thought of the rest of the games that I played. I finished the challenge on the 24th of the month, so despite giving myself 31 days, I ended up finishing everything much sooner, which was considerably quicker than last year. The cool thing about doing it in May instead of October is that in Japan, where I live, there's a long holiday called Golden Week, so that first week where I didn't have to go to work really helped the pace. Anyway, picking up from where we left off last time, I beat Devil May Cry on the PS2. I know it's not strictly a horror game, but it's about killing demons in a big spooky castle, so close enough. I've played this one before, so I knew going in I was going to have a good time, but it's quite a bit harder than I remember it being. I remembered pretty vividly the lava spider thing being quite a challenge, thanks to the room and the weird camera, but there were other portions of the game that I thought I'd breeze through that ended up giving me a hard time. Most notably, the final encounter with Nightmare needed a good few attempts before I got through it, but overall, I had a great time. I've still not played Devil May Cry 5 yet, despite it sitting in my Steam account for ages, and this replay, in particular, has definitely made me want to bump it up the priority list a fair bit. Next was House of the Dead 2. Not much to say about that one, though. It's a classic rail shooter game, has some hilarious voice work, and is probably my favourite in the series. I was playing the Dreamcast version on a pad, which kind of sucks, but, not having a light gun is my fault, not the game's fault, so let's not begrudge it too hard for that one. After that, we did the Evil Within, which I think was the longest playthrough of the marathon. I put it on the list because I played it around the time that it came out, and I hated it. But since then, I've played the sequel and enjoyed it, and I've watched other people play through the first one on Twitch, and I thought it looked considerably more appealing than I remembered it being, so I shoved it on there. Mainly to reevaluate, and I'm glad I did, because I had a good bit of fun with it this time around. I think my big problem back at release was that the first few areas of the game kind of set you up to think it's going to be like a stealth game with sneaky sections and, only really giving you enough ammo to tickle some enemies' balls. But then it pulls the rug out from underneath you and it puts you up against enemy ambushes and big lads with safes on their head that need gunning down. I was playing much less conservatively this time, and I had a much better experience as a result. I don't think I enjoy the game enough to go back and give Akumu mode a try, but maybe I'll do it as a charity incentive at some point in the future. Either way, I had fun, and I'm glad I gave it another chance. Following that was a game called Tromada, which was so boring and forgettable, I don't really have anything to say about it. It's just another low-poly horror game about wandering around a house. Lasted about an hour or two. Fucking whatever, next one. Resident Evil Dead Aim followed that, and I really like this game. It's very daft, and the bosses can be a bit bullshitty sometimes, but even without the gun con, it's really fun to play. And the first hour or so of the game has some really nice horror atmosphere going on. That, of course, all falls away when you get to the first save room and you find the infinite ammo box. But, we're playing a gun survivor spin-off game and not a mainline full-on horror entry, so, we can forgive that. If you haven't played any of the Gun Survivor games, I implore you to at least give this one a try. It's really good. After that was Nightmare of Decay, a short and cheap little indie thing that's really fun. Not much to say about it in a video like this, but if you're ever in the market for a short and satisfying indie horror experience, this game's a pretty good one to scratch that itch with. Then came Castlevania 2, which is one of those NES games that has a bit of a bad rep, probably thanks to that really old AVGN video where he complains about it at length. And while that video is pretty funny, the game isn't that bad. I can imagine the experience of playing it would have been considerably more annoying back in the day when guides weren't readily available, as this game is just obtuse as all fuck. But in current year, with the power of the internet, it's not really a problem. If there's anyone who has beat this game, though, like back in the day, guideless, I would love for you to leave a comment and tell me how you did it, because I'm almost convinced it's not possible. Then we played Echo Knight, a old From Software sort of adventure point-and-clicky type thing about a guy on a boat full of ghosts. It was pretty fun, the puzzles were satisfying, but the pace of the game is very slow, which may irritate players of the modern day. I, however, am not bothered by the slowness, and I really liked it. I know that FromSoft are probably fully invested in the whole Souls thing, but they are doing that new Armored Core, so maybe if I clasp my hands together and pray really hard, we can get another Echo Knight game. There's not been one since the PS2 after all. Probably not, but we can dream. Then there was Within Scary, an extremely irritating game about wandering around a house on an island. It wasn't very scary, don't really have anything to say about it. It sucked. After that was Spooky's Jump Scare Mansion, which I'm sure many of you have heard of before. It's pretty good. It did manage to jump scare me a total of 9 times. I had a counter on the stream there, which is more than most horror games do, so I suppose it lives up to its name, I guess. I've since learned that there's a non-free version called HD Renovation, which I'm curious to try one day. But, I'll probably pick it up in a sale or something, given, the backlog. And then there was Outlast, and oh my god, do I fucking hate this series. I put it on the list as a kind of joke because my hatred for Outlast and its sequel has become a bit of a stream meme, I guess. I'm not the kind of person who's offended by things like violence and gore. Like, hell, I unironically like the Saw franchise, but there's something about this game that just fucking pisses me off. It's so sweaty and try-hard while being completely ineffective, and it's coupled with just the most sleep-inducing gameplay you've ever seen that consists almost entirely of hiding from one guy while you look for valves or buttons. I remember when the trailer for this game first dropped, and I got excited because I thought it was going to be kind of, Spooky's Mirror's Edge. But, I bought it, and the only thing that happened is that Red Barrels took a big liquid shit in my hard drive. Then I played Inside, which was okay. Didn't hate it, didn't like it as much as Limbo. Not really in any kind of hurry to play it again. There's some extra things with, secrets, but I don't know. Not for a long time, I don't think. After Inside came a free-to-play indie title called Those Who Crawl. The game's about a character crawling through a very narrow cave passageway, and caving is one of those things that just, as a concept, makes me feel uneasy, so it gets propped for just the setting alone. It doesn't really do much with the idea, though, and its mouse controls are fine at first, but after playing it for a while, your fingers get really tired, so not the kind of thing to try if you're looking to just relax. Give it a go, though. For $0, it's worth checking out. Then I played Cold Fear on PS2, which I had never heard of before I did this challenge this year, and it was very average. The only thing that really irritated me about it was the complete lack of a map at any point in the entire game, which made navigating really irritating. Aside from that, though, the rest of the game was just fine. Final boss was a bit annoying, but, we won't regard it too harshly just for that. Then I played Enemy Zero on the Sega Saturn, and wow, this game was fucking boring! It's a puzzle adventure that comes on 3 discs, so I thought it was going to be really long. But it turns out almost the entire thing is very slow FMVs. There are some first-person shooter-type sections when walking around the spaceship, but, the enemies are completely invisible, so instead of being a fun change of pace, it's just irritating bullshit. Had some pretty funny dialogue, though. Pony Island followed that one, and I really enjoyed that one. The whole haunted video game thing is a bit cliche, but I quite like the presentation, and some of the puzzles are pretty cool. They were satisfying to solve. It had a decent bit of humor to go along with the demonic vibe, and there was some pretty good music in there too. It's short, but it's only like £4 on Steam, and it feels just long enough. I didn't get all the pony tickets on my first try in this one, so it's one I will be revisiting for sure. Silent Hill 3 followed that, and do I really need to say anything here? You don't get much more well-respected in the genre than classic Silent Hill. I know people put Silent Hill 2 as their favorite entry in the franchise, but personally, I like this one just a little bit more. I like the whole cult summoning demon gods story that they had going on in the first game, and it's fun to see it reach, such an exciting conclusion in this one. I will say, however, that the subway area that you go through early in the game can absolutely suck my cock. I hate that place, and I think almost everyone who's played Silent Hill 3 also hates it. Overall, it's a fantastic game, but that one area can just fuck right off. Then I played Inside Depth 6, another boring and forgettable game about a guy in a cave. Unlike those who crawl though, the cave was really wide, so it doesn't score any points for setting this time. After that came The Suffering, which was quite enjoyable, not really scary and full of really funny dialogue, but you know, a fun kind of action horror game either way. The one thing that did kind of piss me off about it was that there's the insanity mode feature. You fill up a bar and then you hit triangle to turn into a monster with a sword arm. But being in this mode sucks. You could turn yourself into a monster and then lose like half your health cutting up a bunch of enemies. Or you could just stay human and shoot the enemies at range with your large arsenal of guns and save all your healing pills. Maybe if Insanity mode was a bit like Devil Trigger in Devil May Cry, where you took less damage and regenerated, it might be useful, but it doesn't do that, so it's fucking useless. Pretty good though, I think I got the bad ending. The final 2 games of the marathon were A Girl's Fabric Face and Sweet 776, which are both made by the same guy. He also did Within Scary, Inside Depth 6, and Snafu. And I really enjoyed Snafu, but all of this guy's previous works just kind of bore the shit out of me. Sweet 776 was better than Fabric Face by a wide margin, but they're all sort of the same thing, and I'm hoping that he does more stuff like Snafu and less unscary object hunting around a house crap in the future. I also rounded off the marathon with a playthrough of Silent Hill 1, since I'm chasing a 10-star ranked playthrough, and you know, you just take one look at the speedrunning playlist on the channel to see how much I enjoy that game. There were also 3 games that I dropped completely this year, which is something I haven't done before. First there was Necrovision, which was hard to stream, buggy, and not very fun. Following that there was Siren, which was extremely annoying to play, and it had very creepy character facial animations. Maybe I'll try that one again sometime in the future, but I don't know. And finally, there was Nosferatu, Wrath of the Malachi, which I kind of like conceptually, but the game was way harder than I anticipated, and I dropped it so that I can relax and enjoy it when I haven't given myself a time pressure to deal with. These 3 games were replaced by other things that we have discussed previously in the video. And that's it. Next year, Horror Month will hopefully be in October, like it's supposed to be, and I'm always open to suggestions for the list, so feel free to leave a comment, or hit me up on my Discord server, which I will link in the description, and, you know, give me your ideas. I'll be taking a rest day, you know, or 2, and then I'll be back on the grindstone with my regular game list. Peace!